parents, grandparents, relatives, friends, congregants, newcomers, visitors, guests. I'm going to pose a question, class, in Hebrew, familiar to many of you, all of you, many of them. But I won't answer it before I share other information, okay? The question is, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh? Why is this night different than all other nights? And now the info, before I answer it. I am a temple rabbi. I am parent of a member of the class of 17 named Julia, but here's what you may not know. Over the past 26 years, I have spoken at the baccalaureates, graduation, senior class days for virtually all of your schools, not Lee Academy in the Delta, but yes to the other 7. So back to my question, and since this is for all of them too, I'm going to get up here. Ma nishtana. Part of the answer is best explained through what happened recently after meeting with a maid bride and her fiance, not Polly, but one of the several other brides whose weddings are this month at Temple. A few weeks ago, this bride and her fiance drove in from Birmingham to meet with me. The bride is 27. She was active in one of your high schools. She went on to the University of Georgia, where she excelled and hit her stride. She's already proven herself in the professional world in 2 cities, and all this happened after she sat exactly, seniors, all this happened when she was sitting exactly where you are right now, in the sanctuary. Following the pre-wedding session, I asked if there was anything else I could do beyond solidifying details for the ceremony. We were walking down that hallway toward the ELC, the Early Learning Center, she had graduated from when I mentioned that there were pictures of the graduating kindergarten classes on the wall. She asked if she could go and see hers. Remember, this girl was a Memphis high school standout, excelled at Georgia, worked for Home Depot in Atlanta. She now lives and works in Birmingham. She's headed to California for her fiance's graduate fellowship next year. After 27 years and all the places she's been, she just stood in front of her kindergarten picture here, explaining to her fiance, back to Matt Silver's words, why the feeling of this space and place take her mind and heart and soul back to a Jewish childhood and to memories that ground her life and continue to shape her connection to Judaism at age 27 today. Tonight is the one Shabbat when we celebrate and give thanks for the all of your 18 years, or 19. Your generation is criticized for being on your phones too much. Some of you are having anxiety right now about that. You're criticized for always moving from moment to moment. But seniors, you aren't the only ones. Your parents, your elders, your younger siblings aren't much different. They also check their phones too often. Most of us in 2017, regardless of age, have become about the next thing, having to see this or that professional sporting game or a concert, or moving on to planning our next trip, or going to last week's music fest where many of you probably felt you had to be. We live in an age that's all about the now until the next moment, the next meal. Even your exam reviews were about getting on with exams, right? And then getting them over. I'm not being judgmental, just an observation. We have all become about moving from moment to moment. We're not very good about being in the moment. So in answering the question, Ma nishtana, what makes this night, this moment different than all the other academic high school graduations happening this month? 8 different high schools I'm looking at among the 38 Temple grads. What's different is that you're not just leaving 4 years of school. You're about to leave the Jewish space and place with that Birmingham bride, and so many of you learned to walk. Some of you weren't even walking when you crawled in Noah's Ark. 38 of you, when you return to temple after a few years away, if not before, with or without a spouse, hopefully like that bride, you look back on how special and great your Jewish childhoods were. Your high school graduations and parties this month celebrate an achievement. Tonight's graduation Shabbat celebrates the blessings you have become and are still becoming as you move on to college and beyond. Seniors, all of you, the Jewish grounding we've tried to provide you, not just since last year, but since you entered the world in 1998 or 1999, the Jewish sense of home we've tried to give you outside your individual homes, I hope you'll carry with pride with you for the rest of your life. The fact is, after you receive your high school diplomas, most of you will rarely visit the high schools you'll be leaving. Perhaps on occasion, but you'll move on. That's just how it is. Manishtana halayla hazeh, tonight's Shabbat is different because like that bride who, while staring at her kindergarten picture, added this sentence: I can't wait to come home for the high holidays this fall. Each of you can come back and hopefully will to this Jewish anchor and spiritual home in your lives for one simple reason. Temple is yours for a lifetime, not for 4 years or even 12 years. So I'm going to close with just one Torah insight on why tonight is so bittersweet. It's a paradox. Did you get that on the ACT and SAT? You know what a paradox is, right? It's so obvious, most of us miss it because we're too busy right now moving from moment to moment instead of really being in the moment. So the paradox, follow me, is that life is a series of connections and separations. We all know about the connections. That's why parents and especially grandparents adore their children and grandchildren, why grandkids love their parents and grandparents. We all know that life is relationship. That's why you're sitting next to friends, and that's why we love friends. But life isn't only about connections. Life is equally about separations. And I want you to think about this rabbinic comment on birth itself and why a mother and her newborn son or daughter have to separate from everyone else and be alone for 7 or 14 days before there ever was maternity leave or paternity leave. The Torah in Leviticus 11, Tazria, this week is Emor. You can study with Rabbi Feivel tomorrow morning at 8:45. But back in Leviticus 11, it stipulates that a mother and her baby after you're born have to be alone. Why? My favorite rabbinic answer is so that these two creatures, mom and baby, one of whom has created the other, one of whom has literally lived inside the other for 9 months, can be together, of course, to bond, of course, to focus on each other, yes, but here's the key: to learn to begin to separate from each other. Because birth is, in a real sense, the first separation. That which has been inside you is now separate from you. But that's only the first of many future separations that lie ahead in life. That baby, that was you, someday will be weaned and no longer need its mother's milk in order to live. Child will someday learn how to stand and walk without holding on to you. The child will leave preschool, kindergarten, first grade. Then she'll begin to go to overnights at friends' houses, summer camp without you. Then he will become bar mitzvah, confirmed, get a driver's license, graduate high school. Then this child will someday marry a stranger and leave you. Just kidding. I love my son-in-law, Alex. He's no stranger. Even if the amazing woman he married was once connected to me and her mother in all those ways, before making an equal number of separations. Tonight is one of those separations. Leaving home. For some parents, it's the first child leaving home. For others of you, it's our last child leaving. No matter how rabbis spin it or psychologists explain it, this is one of those separations tonight. Because the entire house changes. The dynamic, the energy, the schedule, even the sounds and noise change radically when someone living with you no longer is there all the time. Holidays will now become even more special because what used to be natural, being together at holidays, becomes a big deal, a special reunion for reconnection. So the closing question is, what's the sweet part of this paradox if separations have an inherent sadness about them? The sweet part, if you're really in the moment right now, is appreciating what that bride realized 9 years later. The blessing of our Memphis Jewish childhoods, the spiritual anchor of temple for a lifetime, and not only for one generation, but from generation to generation. There are 52 Shabbat evenings a year. Tonight, nearly 40 of our households. This is the most emotional one of all. For all that's been, we're grateful. For all that's ahead, we're hopeful. For parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, the question is not, can you believe we're so old? That's not the question. The question is rather, can you believe how blessed we are? And if we're truly in the moment with that question, then even the separation taking place tonight is overcome by a lifelong connection to family, our synagogue, the Jewish people, and class of 17 in closing, a lifelong Jewish identity embodied by the individual I'm honored to introduce now. Everyone loves this guy as a relative and a friend, but not everyone knows what a few of us have witnessed the past year. In a congregation with a very high bar, this individual has already distinguished himself as one of the steadiest, smartest, high-minded leaders. The president of Temple Israel, the father of Temple graduate Amanda Scheidt, and the uncle of graduate Marcus Gronauer, Elkin Scheidt.